I should probably begin this evening by sharing something really personal with you. You seem like the type of group that I can get intimate with. I suffer from a very serious medical condition. It's known as PLDS. Has anyone ever heard of that? PLDS. It stands for Poor Life Decision Syndrome. It has plagued me my entire life and has led to some really interesting situations, including once I bought fake Microsoft software from China, and another time I accidentally, keyword, accidentally bought crack. You know, just weird things have happened. The incident that I want to share with you happened while I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah. I had been living there for a few months. Now, those of you who are familiar with PLDS will realize that choosing to move across the country and live in Utah is actually a symptom of the disease. Very advanced stages. I didn't realize that at the time. But I was living in Utah. I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school. I volunteered full time. I was very active in my church. All around, I was just super busy. I wasn't sleeping, wasn't really taking good care of myself, and it began to take a toll on my body. Now, I know that you look at me today and you see someone that clearly takes great care of their body and stays really fit. But believe it or not, sometimes I slip. This all led to me inevitably getting sick. I don't know if it was a cold, I don't know if it was the flu, it felt like the plague. I was just beside myself. I had what I like to call the 3 S's, the shits, the shivers, and the shakes. I like most people with a penis, I am a huge-ass baby when it comes to getting sick. Even now, pushing 30, all I want to do is climb in the fetal position, suck my thumb, and call my mom. I mean, it's ridiculous. And this was no different, and it lasted for 2 weeks. I had to cancel school, I canceled work, I basically dropped out of my social calendar. I was so sick, and I was starting to get stir-crazy because I'd spent so much time in bed and in my house. So when my friend Jackie called me, I thought it was the perfect relief. She'd invited me to go with him to the movies, and then later to go to IHOP for a late-night dinner. Perfect. I love movies, and I love pancakes, and I couldn't see any way that this could go wrong, even though I didn't feel 100% at the time. We loaded up in the car. She drove. We went to the movie theater. Movie was fine. I felt okay. It was a good movie. Obviously not that good because I don't remember what it was. But we sat through the movie, and at the end of the movie, my head was hurting. I was a little dizzy. I knew I had a fever. And my stomach was about to go on strike. And I thought to myself, well, for someone who hasn't eaten solid foods in 2 weeks, IHOP at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday probably isn't the best reentry into polite society that I could make. But because I suffer from this disorder, PLDS, I ignored everything my body was telling me to do and went to IHOP anyway. The reason I did that, and this is something important, I am an extremely social creature. I crave human-to-human interaction. Sometimes it's not even about sex. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes I just want to have civilized conversation with fully clothed adults over a nice meal. And I thought that this IHOP experience would give me the perfect opportunity to do that. That evening there were 4 of us, myself, my 2 friends, Jackie and Amanda, and then one of Jackie's friends who I'd never met before. She was a pretty girl, kind of shy. For the purpose of this story, let's call her Stacy. Now, one of the things that you should also know about me is that I have this quirk. I have this need to be liked. When I meet someone for the first time, I want them to like me. I want them to love me. I want them to brag about how cool I am to people. It's neurotic. I suffer from this. It's really hard to deal with. And so this was no different. I was laying it on thick for Stacy, all from the movie theater to the IHOP while we're waiting on the waiter to take our order. I'm like a chameleon. My go-to act is self-deprecating humor, and then if that doesn't work, I morph into whatever it is that they find funny or interesting. I can go from concerned citizen about political affairs to a catty queen in 3 seconds flat. Whatever it is that they need, okay? I'm willing and ready to go there. And so it was no different. I was laying it on thick. She wasn't really responding the way I wanted to, but I knew I would get her by the end of the meal. As it came time to order, I thought, well, perhaps because I've only been eating bread and soup for 2 weeks, I should go light. And then, again, I dismissed that, the disorder, I mentioned that. So I ordered some ungodly combination of like breakfast meats, potato hash browns, 3 eggs, over easy, toast, and a side of pancakes. I even upped the order of pancakes so they'd be stuffed with something gooey and add like 20,000 calories. It was amazing. I engulfed that meal faster than most third world children would have engulfed that meal. It was ridiculous. Third World Children wasn't funny. I thought that was scratch that. I was just so hungry, and I had that kind of unsettled but satisfied feeling that you have after you haven't eaten in a long time, and then you have like that really starchy, carby meal that you've been craving. And what was more important is that by the end of that meal, Stacy and I had started to connect. I was winning her over with my charm. You've probably noticed by now. And so she and I were starting to connect, and I knew that this was the beginning of a beautiful friendship between Stacy and I. As we got ready to leave, and we paid our check, and we were about to embark on the 28-block journey to my home, which is about a 10-minute drive in normal driving conditions, I thought to myself, perhaps I should take a moment and use the restroom. You know, again, shit, shiver, shakes, right? So I decided that I should do that, but we had already started to pull out of the IHOP parking lot. Now, oftentimes when I get that feeling that I need to go to the restroom, I play a little game where I try to hold it as long as I can because I hate going to the bathroom. The thing about me is that ever since I was a small child, I could hold pee forever, for days, right? I've gone on 17-hour road trips and drank copious amounts of of water, and both. And I have never had to stop at a pit stop, right? Number 2, though, different story. You better pray to God that you are not between me and a bathroom, because I have just few spare seconds to make it to an appropriate waste receptacle. And this was no different. So as we pulled out, I felt that familiar feeling, and I thought, okay, I've got 3 options here. Option 1, I can ask Jackie to pull back into the IHOP and pretend like I forgot something, and then, discreetly go to the bathroom. Option 2, I can just clinch and pray and hope that we make it the 28 blocks, 10 minutes to my house. Option 3, I could ask Jackie to pull into one of those gas stations along the way. There were 3 or 4. So I decided to go with option 2 with option 3 as a backup plan. So we go. The girls are chatting, and I'm still trying to perform for Stacy. There's music playing. But yeah, after about 2 minutes, I realized that I have made a terrible mistake. I start to imagine all of the ways that this could go really, really wrong. And because this is a food establishment, I'll allow you to imagine those for yourself, and I won't share the details. But I was really getting scared. I was suffering in a prison of my own mind. It was terrible. I faintly asked Jackie to pull over at a gas station. Now, what I didn't realize is that Jackie had decided to take a slightly longer route to my house that's more residential and has less stoplights. The problem with that is that it also had no gas stations. So at that point, we were equal distance from a gas station and my house. Jackie asked me why I wanted to go to a gas station anyway, and I told her it was because I needed to use the restroom. She assumed, falsely, that meant I had to tinkle and started to swerve the car around the road and then hit on the brakes. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. I calmed down, I tried to keep myself cool and collected, and the inside I was freaking out. This went on forever, and I was so worried because I was like, okay, what impression am I going to make on Stacy? And I have my friends here, and it was just a terrible experience. I started to watch the street signs as they passed. I realized we had about 15 blocks to go. Like, oh God, 15 blocks, 14, 13. Enough pressure was building to launch men to space. 12, 11, 10, like the little engine that could. I kept saying, I think I can, I think I can. Finally, as we pulled to the one stoplight that was between our destination and where we were, I had had enough. My resistance came to its futile end. As the gates opened, say it that way, I looked around the car and tried to decide what it was that I was going to do. And the solution that I came up with was to open the car door and make a run for it. Now, I had just moved there, and I didn't know where we were. So we were stopped at the red light, and I open the car, and I run for it, and I see this big building with big double doors and shrubs that would be perfect to hide someone at crouching or squatting level. And so I made my way for the building. You have to imagine what that looked like for the girls, okay? We're at a red light. I didn't really provide much of an explanation. I take off. The last thing I remember seeing is Stacy's shocked face. Who is this? I run, I make it to the building, meanwhile, clinching, and I don't know if you've ever tried to clinch and run at the same time. It's not fun, or possible, as it turns out. But I was running towards the building, I hit the double doors, I make the right behind the bushes, and I crouch in a formation that would make any Eagle Scout proud. I drop my trousers, and I let what remains of my dilemma hit the ground. Okay, this is really embarrassing, and I start to assess the situation. I'm like, okay, where am I? What's going on? I look around. I feel like I'm really well protected from the road, and I don't see my friends. And I start to congratulate myself for like being so resourceful in a scary situation. And then I look over my right shoulder, and I can just barely make out the last 2 words on the sign above the double doors, and all I can read is elementary school. Now I don't know which elementary school it was to this day, but it was somewhere about 10 minutes from my house. And so I'm there, and I'm not as congratulatory of myself at that point. And I whip out my phone, I start to text Jackie. It's 1:43 in the morning. And I say, Jackie, don't leave me. I'm coming back. I'll be there in a moment. And so I, again, assess the situation, realize that my boxers are not salvageable, and so use them in some leaves to clean up as best as I can, and then leave them in the bushes outside the door of the elementary school. I pull up my pants in what was really a desperate act because the pants nor my body were clean enough for that to happen. And I make my way back to the car where my friends are. It turns out that I did not need to explain to them what had happened since it had started before I left the car. And they were there with the windows rolled down. Jackie and Amanda were laughing hysterically. And poor Stacy. I got in the car, we drove to my house, I said my goodbyes, and as I walked in the back door, the one closest to my bedroom and the shower, I, derobed, took off my pants, put them in a bag, and threw them out the back door into the trash can. As I took my shower of shame, I thought about a few things. I thought about my incessant need to be liked and how I had really tried my best with Stacy. I also thought about how the self-deprecating humor thing wasn't working with her and I had to switch up my game. And the moral that I concluded was, if self-deprecating humor doesn't work, chances are you're going to strike out with self-defecating humor as well.